Hello and welcome to this edition of Monticello Minute Unscripted. I'm your host Keith Wallace, and as always we're coming at you from the studio inside Advance Printing Company located just off the beautiful square in downtown Monticello. Our guest today is my friend Emily Stell. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily is a professional in health and wellness as far as mental health. And we wanted to use this episode to kind of talk about the resources and talk about the different help we have here in our community when dealing with mental wellness and mental health issues. A lot of people may not realize, because we're a smaller community, that we have a lot of options and we have a lot of places that people can go to get help in that type of area. Emily, I know you've been involved in this area for quite a while now. Can you kind of give me a little history about where you come from, what made you decide to get into this specific field, and what you've done while you've been in it?
Okay, so when I was a student at UAM, I was in college and I had to choose between psychology and English with a concentration in literature. And with that decision, I ruled out what would be a best fit for myself and future family at that time, because now I have a husband and I've got two beautiful kiddos. So at that time I had to make a decision, and then I talked with Dr. Clubb. If anyone remembers Dr. Clubb out at UAM, he mentioned to me the possibilities with a psychology major, and most of them include getting your master's and then going from there. And counseling just fit. I remember crying in the parking lot and praying on what would be the right decision. And I had that conversation with Dr. Clubb, right after that. And so I just felt led to be in counseling. I really enjoy it. From that point, I went to ULM, and I was a war hawk for about 2 years. Okay. And I graduated summa cum laude.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And my husband and I were just married at that time. And at that point, when I graduated, I was able to get a job with Living Hope, which, funnily enough, life sometimes comes back around to us. But I'm contracting with Living Hope Southeast right now, 1 day a week on Wednesdays.
Can you tell us a little bit about Living Hope? What is that?
So Living Hope is one of our mental health counseling choices that our community has available. And with Living Hope, you see our psychiatrist, and then you have to see a counselor if you do see the psychiatrist. And they are, I'm trying to remember their address. I've DoorDashed several times.
They're here in Monticello.
They are.
Okay, so you can find them in the directory if you want to look them up.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then with Mainline.
Okay, you worked with Mainline as well?
Yes. So I've worked at Mainline, and they have psychiatric nurse practitioners, which I think is a fantastic option. And then one of the differences that are a pro and a con, depending on your preference, you can see their psychiatric nurse practitioner without having to have mental health counseling and vice versa. And so that's been interesting to work alongside different professionals in that capacity.
So professional counselors as well as nurse practitioners who are specializing in psychiatric issues. Right here in Monticello.
Right.
So if someone was having a problem, or maybe, mental anguish was becoming something that they were having a struggle with, there are places here in Monticello that people can go and they can
absolutely
talk to about that. Well, that's good to know. A lot of emphasis has been put on mental health over recent years, and I think that's a good thing. There's a lot to do with living and life that mental health plays a large role in. I, for one, firmly believe that physical health is affected by your mental health. A positive attitude. We've got so much depression and anxiety that people feel heaped on themselves. A lot of times they need a counselor to talk to, somebody to give them some direction and some leadership. I'm also understanding that recently you have branched out on your own. Is that correct?
I have. So as my family grew, and I have my 9-year-old and 6-year-old.
Now, what are your kids' names?
Easton and Emery.
Oh, okay. Good.
And they just had their birthdays, so they're freshly 9 and freshly 6.
Wow. Well, happy birthday to both of them.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, I know your husband, Clay. He and I have been friends for years,
Yeah.
but the audience may not know. You're married to Clay Stell.
Yes.
And y'all been married now for how many years?
You put me on the spot.
Uh-oh.
I think it's our 10th or 11th.
Well, I can remember the
Anniversary.
wedding day. I believe it was right across the street, was it not?
It was at
yeah.
Pauline Baptist.
Okay, I remember
Yeah.
the wedding day. Yeah, Pauline, of course, right over there.
Yeah.
So anyway, time flies.
It does.
Tell me more about your new journey.
I have my business cards right here, and it's going to help me stay on track. But my private practice counseling service is called Stillwater's Counseling Services, LLC. I'm located right across the street from C-Arc Eye Care and right beside Sheer Design. And it's a parking space that I feel is pretty private to be in the center of town. So that's a benefit. But I provide those services Mondays and Tuesdays. I contract with Living Hope on Wednesdays, and then I'm open Thursdays and Fridays. And I see clients 5 years old and older. Usually I prefer 6 years old, but if we've got a special case, I can talk with the parent and see what we need to do for the kiddo to however old. I don't feel like you're too old to benefit from therapy, and as long as you're open to that process, I think it's very beneficial.
Well, you bring up a good point there, and I feel like there, in a lot of culture or society, there's a stigma that's attached to therapy. A lot of people are ashamed. They feel weak if they have to seek out counseling or seek out therapy. And having some privacy, of course, in the mental health field is the health field in general. Privacy is a big deal. So you always know when you go to a professional, a counselor or a therapist, or they're gonna your situation is going to be taken as private. It's going to be very confidential, and I think people really need to realize that so that they can get the help they need and not not let that stigma keep them from getting well. Because when you're not well mentally, like I said, it affects every aspect of your life, your social life, your physical life, everything. So that's good to know. And I'm glad to know your hours and know that you're available to help.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? A personal experience or something now that you've been in the field for as long as you have, which I'm thinking is a decade or better now, is it?
We're going on 10 years. So
going on 10 years. That you might would want to say to our audience, anything that you found along the way that would be a good bit of advice to anybody who may be struggling and just may not know the next step to take or what to do.
I feel like there's always an option, even when you feel like you don't have any options left. There's always hope. And if we're unable to get to that point where we can see it ourselves, it really benefits from being able to talk to someone that's non-judgmental. And I tell my clients this often. They are their own person, and I didn't get into counseling to be judgmental. I didn't get into counseling just because I care. I truly believe people have the ability to help themselves. Sometimes we just need someone to show us how to do that. And it's their hour where it should be uninterrupted. Sometimes it is because I keep my phone close on me because of my kids. But it's your uninterrupted 50 minutes, your time to talk about that stuff that you don't feel you always can. And even if it's big or small, who wouldn't benefit from being able to talk that stuff out?
Well, that's good to know. I feel like having you on today has really brought to light for people who may not understand that there is help available right here in our community. You don't have to go to a big city to have people that are trained professionals that are here to listen to you and to help you any way they can. Well, I really appreciate having you on.
Yeah,
and I know our
you.
Listeners and viewers have appreciated it. And good luck in your new journey.
Thank you.
And continue doing the work you do. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. We're going to have our featured guest artist of the day, Mr. Brandon Hogg. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. I'm very happy today to have my longtime friend, Brandon Hogg, joining me on the broadcast. He's going to be our featured musical artist. Now, I know a lot of you may know Brandon from his day job. He's a loan officer at Union Bank, and also with his affiliation and work he does with Rotary Club. But you may not realize that he is also a long-standing musician. He has been at the musical game for quite a while. And when we started planning out that we were going to start doing this broadcast, he's one of the first people I thought of. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. Good to be here.
Well, good to have you. If you would, just for our viewers, like I said, who may not realize it, can you kind of give us just a little history about your musical journey?
Sure. Gosh, it's been about 25 years ago. Keith Van D showed me a couple of chords on the guitar, picked it up pretty well, started playing with Rob Leonard at Pauline. And
name dropping a couple of good names there, yeah.
Learned, playing at Pauline, I had to learn how to play bass. Played guitar a lot, got out at the NBSF, played with those guys, Colby Ladd.
Yeah, of course.
People that you probably know. It was at the NBSF where I met Ben Coulter.
Oh, Ben, yeah.
And Ben and I became real close friends, and I was learning how to play drums. And about the time I felt like I was good enough, Ben put a band together and asked me to play with him. Well, I ended up playing drums, bass, and guitar off and on for 2 or 3 years, and we played all over the region, played a few times in Nashville. Just had a big time playing with Ben.
I was fortunate enough to see y'all play a couple times. Can you tell me a little bit about that band? Who I was with? It was you and...
Terry Swilley, who ended up being one of my absolute best friends. He played harmonica. Of course, Ben was the singer. Kirby Smith was our guitar player. Zach Gibbons was the bassist.
Nice,
and
nice.
We played all over and had a big time.
Now, of course, I've heard Terry play the harmonica. He's excellent, and I've seen Ben several times. Such a great vocalist. Wrote a lot of music, sang a lot of music. I know you enjoyed your time being part of that band. Now, talking about writing music, I think you've done a little bit of writing yourself, have you not?
I have, and Terry is the one who's encouraged that. Terry's a great songwriter and has encouraged me in my playing and my writing, and we've written a few songs together. Some of them you've heard.
I've had the pleasure of being out at Terry and Kathy's house. They have little jams out there. And got a little. He has a studio kind of set up out there as well, so I know there's a lot of great music that comes out of that studio and out of that house. And I was very, very happy when you put a little album out. Can you tell us about the album you just recently released?
Sure. You say released like it's out there for sale.
It's out there.
It's out there, and I guess you can buy it if you really want to part with about $50.
Okay.
But I did put this together. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, and I'd written a song about him, and that was pretty popular amongst friends and family.
Yeah.
But there was 4 or 5 other. Well, there's more than that. There was 8 or 9 songs that Terry and I had written together, and there were some covers I'd put together, and we had recorded, but I never really put it in any kind of medium at all. And I'm a collector of vinyl, and I'm really into that, and found an opportunity where I could make my own record. So I've got one side of originals that Terry and I wrote, and another of covers, and I named it Lawman. And,
awesome.
That's the title cut.
Well, the inspiration behind songs and albums to me is always one of the most enjoyable parts of the whole thing. And inspiration, when it comes to music, you can't downplay how much inspiration plays in everything that's created. I know you said you started out playing at NBSF and Pauline, and now I believe you play in the praise band at First Methodist.
I do.
So I know inspiration plays a lot of a huge role in your musical journey. And this album right here is a testament to it. This is Brandon's album. It's called Lawman. Like he said, some of the songs he and Terry wrote, some are songs other people wrote that had a special place in his heart, and he wanted to record them. And we're going to benefit this afternoon from hearing Brandon play a song off this album. So don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back with Brandon Hogg playing a song off Lawman.
So before I play Lawman for you, just a story behind the song. It's been 5-6 years ago. Like I often do, I'm watching Andy Griffith's show. And Barney leans back in his chair, and the distinct sound of his leather belt just making that creaking noise. I thought, man, I've heard that thousands of times with my dad's, leather part of his uniform. I said, I ought to be able to write a song about that. So put down my thoughts. Terry Swilly organized them. And before you know it, we had a really good tribute to not just my dad, but just law enforcement in general. This is Lawman. Cold black boots shine bright as the sun. Leather belt creaks from the weight of his gun. Chrome buttons and badge, thin blue line from hip to heel. Starched uniform speaks the truth and what is real. Facing unknown risks, protecting those he may not know. High regard from most, disrespect from his foes. They go about the business with a load they must carry. By knowing if they'll have to be Andy Griffith or Dirty Harry. And the highway gets lonely and long. But in his heart he knows that's where he belongs. 2 more hours, he can go back home. But tomorrow the lawman will be right back on the road. Making every moment count, long hours every day. Coaching ball on supper breaks, and back in schools on game day. Being there for kids and a role model to others. Being a man of the law and a surrogate brother. And the highway gets lonely and long. In his heart he knows that's where he belongs. 2 more hours, he can go back home. But tomorrow the lawman will be right back on the road. Yeah, tomorrow the lawman will be right back on the road.
We hope you've enjoyed this latest edition of Monticello Minute Unscripted. Special thanks to our guests, Emily Stell and Brandon Hogg, for being with us today. We have another episode coming to you next week, so stay tuned. And remember, the 2025 Hometown Reflections, which is a keepsake publication, is hitting the newsstands, is out on newsstands, excuse me. It is out on newsstands right now, and you can pick it up at the Advance Monticellonian office or anywhere the newspaper is sold. So be on the lookout for that. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Saturday, April 5th, Monticello class will be having their class reunion from 12 to 4. It's going to be fun, too. Friday, April 11th, which is next Friday, April 11th, we'll be having our Special Olympics at McGee. That's gonna be fun.
What will you be participating in, JT?
Running, throwing the tennis ball, and walking. I'll be running as a team though. Tuesday, April 15th, Methodist Church will be hosting their game day fundraiser. It starts at 1 p.m. That's good. Oh yeah. Saturday, April 26th, Market in the Park will be at the Monticello Coffee Company from 8 until noon.